Welcome to BWI Live. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Sean Fitz with me today because our work robot, Greg Pickle, is on vacation, and we are forcibly refusing to let him do work while he's on vacation because he always tries to do it. So Fitz is stepping in for today's Wednesday show. We're here on YouTube. Not going to be a super long show today. We're going a little shorter, and we're going to do something fun. We're doing a top 5 list. So we're doing top 5 of your favorite wide receivers in this particular recruiting class, the official visits in June. This doesn't mean best. This doesn't mean highest ranked. We're not just going from the On3 rankings on down. We're going, which ones do you like watching the most? I'm super excited because I think we're going to get some really interesting stuff. We're going to learn a little bit more about Fitz, a little bit more about me and like our process. And also we're going to hopefully learn about these receivers. So Fitz, thank you for doing this today.
My pleasure. I'm twisting your arm here. We're going to go hurry up because we're going to try some things, maybe see if the little shorter shows between the big hour-long shows, we'll see how they do. And hopefully our users can consume our content, all of our content, whether it's written, whether it's podcast, whether it's video. We appreciate you doing that. But yeah, we're just trying to see what works.
So one thing before we get going, which is something I want to address because people have been replying in the chat yesterday and then talking about it on our video yesterday. Our audio levels are all over the place. And I hear you, trust me, because it's been something that's been driving me crazy for about a week now. I don't know what's going on. So if you're here live, please let me know in the chat. Are our levels even? Because this is the thing. And I hate doing air checks and the things we should be doing behind the scenes live, but there's literally no way for me to know in this particular software. I can't adjust that to make sure that Fitz and I are level and even. So we have to do it here in front of everybody else.
Early feedback is good, but yeah, we're always
Great.
hearing everybody at the same level, and we don't hear the same thing you guys do. It sucks, but there's really not much we can do about that.
Okay.
But anyway,
looks like we're good. So let's get into our top 5, starting with number 5. Now, Fitz, before we get going, do you want to do every other? Do you want to do your list, my list? How do you want to do that?
Let's go back and forth.
Perfect.
5 to 5, 4 to 4, all that stuff.
Here we go.
Number 5.
Who's your number 5 player that you like out of this group of 9 receivers?
Jeff Exinor, wide receiver from McDonough. I'll list him as a wide receiver, maybe an athlete. He's just built differently than everyone else. He's about 217 pounds, but I like him athletically. He just ran the shuttle, I believe, in the 4.3s down at the Under Armour camp, which was, I think, the 3rd or 4th best time for a wide receiver. But the 3 guys he was behind were like 5'7", 150. So for him to be moving back and forth, and I'm a big shuttle guy. I'm a big functional athleticism, short area quickness guy. But I think the size concerns are there because he is so big right now. There were people talking about him being a defensive end early in his career, but he is quote unquote thinned out a little bit. I don't know where he's going to be in 2 years, but because he's naturally big, but still. A lot of skills there, a lot of ball skills to work with. I like Jeff Exinor, and I will say this: I like receivers that carry themselves like Jeff Exinor carries himself. Professional outlook. A lot of those McDonough guys have it. Exinor is another one in that line.
Yeah, he's going to make me wrong in this situation because, those numbers are important. I feel the same way about I like guys, and we're going to see it here in the list of that short area quickness you talked about, but on film, he's a big, fluid, smooth guy, which I wondered, like, how poppy and explosive is he? So I didn't really necessarily see that, so he didn't make my list. A guy that I was initially, and I was all over the place with this list, and we're going to get to that in a little bit later on one of my guys, but I had this guy as high as number 2, and I eventually just put him at number 5, Phillip Bell from Mission Viejo in California. He is like a fine wine or really good coffee or blue cheese on chicken wings. Like, you gotta know you gotta have a refined palate to really appreciate some of the things here. I think he's the best receiver in terms of what he's able to do from a technical standpoint at the position. You got those details of his release and his work at this line of scrimmage and getting open. But then I watched him, and the more I watched him, and the more I watched other guys, I was just like, he's good. Athletically, he's good. Is he great? Is he super fun to watch? He's another one of those guys that's super fluid, and I wonder about all of the fun traits of explosiveness and short area dynamic movement skills. They're okay. So he was number 2 for all those reasons, then he dropped all the way to number 5.
So Bell is interesting to me because I think he's a guy that 10 years ago as a top 100 prospect. And we have him 172 in the industry, 233, actually really coincidental, 233 on 3, 233 on 24/7. But I think he's a guy that is a early peak guy. I would label him as a possession guy that we probably would have fallen in love with 10 years ago. But, you know, as we get deeper into this, and I think we've gotten better at this, and receivers such a crapshoot anyway. But as we get deeper into this, you look, maybe looks a little bit lower. So I didn't have him on my list because of that.
Yeah, I think both these guys that we started with, we wonder, are they near their ceiling right now in terms of in high school? How much more room for growth physically or technically is there? And do you want to bet on a guy who is high floor, or do you want to bet on a guy who is high ceiling? So let's get to number 4.
Number 4.
This is what I was hoping for. This situation is what I'm hoping for. So who do you have here at number 4?
I have Lex Cyrus because that guy can run. He is physically developed himself into a guy that's a football prospect, not just a track guy. Having said that, there are some holes in his game. He's not naturally, he's not the greatest natural catcher of the football. They're very successful in what they do at Susquehanna Township. I'm not sure that he's used in the most dynamic way possible. And he also has played against my old high school, so that's a kind of a tick against him as well. But I like Lex Cyrus a lot. He can run away from anybody. 10-4 last week. A little bit of a win behind him, but 10-4 is a 10-4. I'll take it. He's got a lot of what I think Josiah Brown offered. I think he's probably a little bit better than Josiah, but there's a lot to like with Lex Cyrus.
For sure. I'm going to go on the other side of that coin, and I'm going to go with Quincy Porter because I know I'm wrong here. I know I should be higher on Quincy Porter. The thing is, what we talked about earlier, I think he's a really good receiver for a 6'4 receiver when it comes to positional skills. He runs routes really well. I think he's got really good kind of build-up, long speed, and he's not slow off the line of scrimmage, but there are those, is he going to be a separator at every level of the field? And it takes you a couple times to watch him and go, okay, no, I know he's fast. So there's just a little bit of that probably big guy bias. It's funny, we talk about this stuff, Fitz, with Marcus Hagans.
It's funny how that works, huh?
Right. We talk exactly about these things with Marcus Hagans and what type of receiver they're going after this year and how that's maybe changed a little bit. And I still kind of like the guys that are the previous mold of 6 foot, 6'1" maybe, but can do all of it all together. And even though I've been kind of pounding the drum of they need some new blood in this receiver room from a traits standpoint, I still think the ideal is maybe more of what they were trying to get before. It's just that they couldn't land those guys.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that fair. And the other thing here is they've got Lyric Samuel on board, 6'3.5", runs really well. I don't know that he's as refined as Porter, but like he can get there. Yeah. Like he's really high on Lyric Samuel.
Yeah, and Quincy Porter, to the point you just made, is a really good receiver. So let's get to number 3 here on the list.
Number 3.
Who are you going with at number 3?
I got a guy that's coming in the weekend of June 14th for his official visit. Pittsburgh native, but Texas prospect Taz Williams. Taz he just does so many things well. Like he's a guy that's like really smooth, really all around. He's dynamic. He goes up and gets it over top of people. Of course, he's playing in Texas, so you kind of give him a leg up from this side of the country here. Yep. But yeah, I like what Taz Williams does a lot. I don't know that he's a slam dunk top 100 guy, but like you can find flaws with everybody. They're high school receivers. Let's just go there. So Taz Williams, really like what he brings to the table. I don't know if there's one thing that I can point to and say this is what he's the best at, because he's really good at a lot of things.
Yep. And I'm gonna go with Matthew. What's that?
You're going to hold off on Taz Williams, I see.
Yeah, put a pin in that one. I'm going to go with Matthew Outten, and this is the opposite of what you said. I don't know how good his competition is. And the more I watched his film, and it's about 9 minutes long, I don't know that I saw a guy who he wasn't a head taller than, but you watch his film, and we're talking, part of this is just what do you like? This dude is fun. I had him at number 1, then I got gun shy, and I had him at number 5, and then I saw you had him a little higher on the list, and it gave me confidence to put him just at number 3. Leave it, because I don't know exactly how fast he is. Because, there's some guys on this list that we know are big, we know are fast, we know can do a lot of things really well. I don't know exactly his upper end skills, but I don't see any weaknesses. This is a dude that blows people over, runs after the catch. He's able to show a little, like some of the plays here and the tackles he breaks are nutty. So how much of this translates? I don't have a good answer on that, but I really, really like the way he plays football. His explosiveness off the line, just that dynamic. When you see it of a dude who runs with violence, it's not just explosiveness. It's like there is some intent behind it. I think he's got all of those things. I just wonder from a there's not a whole lot on film in terms of being a route runner and kind of some of the things you said about Lex Cyrus. So without any testing data, I don't know where he falls in terms of does that all translate to the next level. And I don't want to get duped into thinking he's the next superstar hidden gem in this class.
He's my number 2, so you can run that graphic if you want.
Number 2.
I'm just going to put the highlights up again because they're fun.
Yeah, go for it. I don't know why his recruitment isn't bigger right now. It's Penn State, Virginia Tech, Maryland. If you're looking at June official visits, Georgia offered, but then kind of moved out of that one pretty quickly. I agree with you about the competition, and I'm a little bit more wary. I used to be a don't worry about competition guy. I'm a little bit more wary about that. DJ McClary made me second guess that whole thing. But you're looking at a guy that just dominates, and he does it, by being bigger, faster, stronger than everybody, but also you watch him cut, you watch him do these little things, you watch him go up and get the football. That one was not a good example on the YouTube, but he just does everything so well. And I think there's room to grow there. 11-1 in the 100 this year. 4.58 is what I have as his only point of reference as a 40. And I don't know when that's from, but that's a good starting point. If it's an Under Armour camp like that, a 4.5 on the Under Armour is pretty good. So I just, from talking to people, there are guys in that building that have Matthew Outten as the number 1 guy on their board.
It doesn't
and Ryan
surprise
said
me.
that before. Yeah.
He's
so,
there was a junior year 100-meter time that was a 10.91 that I found, but like when you look at his stuff this year, it was consistently slower than that. So was he injured? Like what was going on? Some of that stuff, because he's not as active as you mentioned. He was supposed to be at Under Armour Baltimore. He didn't make that trip, so just that lack of information drives me crazy.
Yeah, sometimes the lack of information can make a prospect better in our eyes too. That's the dangerous part of that. So
yep.
Yeah, I think he's very good, and he's just, I don't know, he's got something to him. I think that, and Penn State's receiver room needs that.
I'm gonna go with Lex Cyrus at number 2 because if you mention, and I'm just gonna go a little bit off mic and go speed. This dude is so fast. I love watching dudes like this because they bring that dynamic element of it doesn't matter who they're playing. This dude is fast. On film, if you've watched enough players play, enough athletes run, he runs from he's separating. He's like a perpetual acceleration machine. Like on this play, he doesn't stop accelerating at the 40 or the 30. He's until he decides, okay, I don't want to empty the tank. He's still getting faster. In a play like this is what I call superstar problems because he does things you teach every other athlete absolutely never do that. What are you doing? And some guys get away with it, and on the high school level, he gets away with it. But when you look at his composite skills, and you mentioned, being a little bit better with Josiah Brown, I think that's a great comparison. I made the more awkward and clunky thing if he's got KJ Hamler's speed and Jahan Dotson's size. So there is a composite skill set there that is like, oh, okay, this is dynamic, this is different. But you're right, the way he was used, a lot of times I try not to pin guys down for that too much because if you don't have a good quarterback can throw the ball down the field, what do you do? But it does give you...
You're very successful running the football,
Yeah, and that gives you kind of an incomplete picture of how is he as a receiver, but the traits there were too much for me not to just go, oh wow, look at that speed. Holy cow, look at that speed.
My holdup there, besides the not being the natural catcher of the football, like the short area quickness is something that needs to improve. He's one of those guys that if it's not faster than his 40's faster than his shuttle. And that's something you gotta work out there.
Let's get on to number 1. And then I got a couple follow-up questions just to end.
Number 1.
So who's your number 1?
In honor of Michael V in the chat, I'm going to go with Quincy Porter. I think he is an all-around dynamic receiver, good athlete, goes up, catches the ball, just does everything so well. I know that he's a little bit lower on your list, and you said you were going to be wrong, so I guess that makes me right. I don't know. We'll see. Porter is a guy, and let's be honest here. That conference, while it puts out talent, not everybody hits in that conference, and maybe sometimes you get a little bit of an inflated profile because of it. But I do think the Porter's really good. I think looking at North Jersey, just early in that cycle, Quincy Porter and Jameer Joseph were two guys that just jumped right out at me. And we're catching up on Jameer. Quincy's up pretty high, so I think those guys are. I think Porter's at the top of the list. Again, he was in for an official visit. They're going to have to weather the storm with Ohio State and Michigan, and I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I don't think he's going to end up at Penn State. But at the same time, like they're trying to fight like hell there.
31, 90, 76, 93, which is where Quincy Porter is ranked in all of the individual recruiting services. That gives him a composite ranking of 46. I know I'm wrong about this. When everyone else says this guy is that good, and I'm like, I like him. Don't get me wrong. I like him, but he's not my cup of tea in terms of style. That's where I'm like, I know I'm wrong. He's going to be very good, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be very good for whatever team puts him in the right situation to succeed.
And also that's a big part of it. There's fit, there's scheme fit, but also like it's harder than it should be to evaluate wide receivers just because they are often the best athlete on the field. Yep. They're often the best guy on their team, and they're often used in a sense where, hey, go score points, which means just go run past everybody. So yeah, getting the finer points of it. I mean, Jahan Dotson was a really, really smooth, really natural prospect, but he wasn't ranked high because of his size, because of his, the testing numbers that he put up early. So like, it's a crapshoot, man. It's not offensive line, but it's a crapshoot at receiver, and that's why we see such a high flame out rate at that position. And I guess I haven't let you go with number one yet, have I?
Yeah, that's all right. Let's go with number one with me. You mentioned this guy earlier, Taz Williams. On the Matthew Outten scale of he goes against Texas talent and makes them look silly, that part is like, you mentioned he does every single thing well, and it's just so much fun to watch him play football. That dynamic, explosive poppiness where he looks like he's faster than he is, I think, based on the way he moves. And I think that a lot of times fools me into thinking he's a 4.3 athlete. You watch him a little longer, and maybe he isn't, but he separates in short area well. He can run by people. He can high point the ball. He has a feistiness about him where, there are some guys on you watch on film, and they're showboating the corner that they just beat, and they're kind of being, I don't like that. But I like a dude who's got some fire to him and is going to like let you know, but not be, kind of 15-yard penalty about it. He's got all of that stuff. He can break tackles. The only thing is, like, I know he's a flawed prospect in the fact that he has got very short arms. When you look at it and you see it on film, you can't unsee how short his arms are. So that also makes me like him even more, given that I have the shortest arms of anybody that I've met. So there's always that like, same. We're the same here. But he's kind of the Goldilocks of this group for me. He does all the things well, and everything is a B+ or better. And I think that there's still a lot of, he's better than the sum of his parts even there. And, looking at his star ranking, like he's a 3-star, I think he's got juice to be really, really, really good, as long as I'm not being fooled by something that I'm not sure of on, that I don't know about on film.
Yeah, and that was one when I opened his profile. I was surprised he's got an 88 from On3, 88 from 24/7. Those are the two that we kind of weigh heavier in the On3 industry. So he's on the lower end of the On3 industry 4-star scale. But like, you look at his tape, and it's like, it's pretty good. Now you throw him in Texas, and you see who's coming around from him. Now here's the thing. Right now, everything we say about Ohio State recruiting wide receivers, Texas is like trying to trample that. Like they're going to get. Jamie French, they're going to get the guy that came up here for the unofficial visit that just slipped my mind. They're going to get like 2 or 3 5-star receivers. Like they're going to be awesome, because that's a combination of everything that's going on with recruiting right now. So Williams might be on the outside looking in there, but you look at A&M official visit this weekend, going to Michigan. He's already gone to SMU. He's already gone to Ohio State. He's going to go to Penn State. So just a little bit different than the Texas crew that you typically see there. So be interesting to see how that one falls out.
That offense is very wide receiver friendly. I was doing some deep dive and learning and off-season studying to kind of know more about football, and Steve Sarkisian's offense, the RPOs and the way he runs that offense and is so heavy into that, it makes those receivers superstars because they get a lot of one-on-one targets down the field in catch and run situations, and you see like the explosiveness that it generates in the offense. I don't know that it's great for quarterbacks. Like, you put up a lot of yards, but if you're basing everything off the RPO, which is a one progression read, are you getting better as a quarterback? And that's still to be determined of how those guys translate to the NFL. We see Tua, who is very good in the Sarkisian offense that is in an RPO offense in Miami, and it works really well. Last question I have for you relates back to this particular conversation. You mentioned Lyric Samuel. If he were a prospect, where would you put him on this list in terms of your 5 favorite receivers? Do you have him as honorable mention? 1, 3, 5? Where do you have him?
He's definitely in the top 5. He's probably 2 or 3 for me. Okay. Just looking at him, seeing him in State College at Elite 11, seeing the body control that he had. We knew he had really good speed for being 6'3" and a half. He ran that 4.53, and then he ran a 4.53 again this year after putting on some weight. So like, there's still a lot to be mined there physically. So I think he's in that top 5 solidly for me.
His tape is not fun to watch because he didn't have a quarterback to throw him the football. So initially I was like, okay, I see why you like this guy. But like you said, watching him in person, seeing how well he moves for somebody that tall, absolutely deserves a spot in this top 5, I think, for both of us. That's it for today's show. Blistering pace. I said 15 minutes. We got it done in 21. I'm counting that as a win. We're coming back tomorrow with the full recruiting show. All kinds of information, recapping OVs, previewing the next round. Of course, we've got prospect camps coming up, all kinds of things you need to know on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Please subscribe here to the YouTube channel. And of course, if you want to get more information, get the deep dive, get some of the more detailed stuff on these guys, bluewhiteillustrated.com. Sign up now for $1 and get 2 months for that price, which is our normal introductory price. You get an extra month with code PSU1 because you're watching here on the YouTube channel and you're enjoying the podcast. So that'll do it for today. We will be back tomorrow, so stay tuned.